good evening, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Business PNG. Now, ports play a crucial role in the growth of any economy, and with the expansions of Lae Tidal Basin Port last year, and now the relocation of the Port Moresby PNG ports to Motukea, the government of Papua New Guinea is hoping to have more efficient ports to cope with the rise of domestic shipping and international imports and exports. Adelaide Curry with more.
Since the arrival of Captain Moresby to Papua New Guinea's nation's capital, Port Moresby, the main port has been found at the central business district of the nation's capital, downtown. And for the first time, the main port that was once the gateway for the world to Papua New Guinea will now be located at Motukea Port. Motukea Port extends out more than 50 hectares and will be the new home for PNG ports. PNG Ports is underway in relocating and should be well established at Motukea Port by the year 2018. The port has costed the government of Papua New Guinea over 700 million kina to establish, in what the Prime Minister Peter O'Neill says would have cost the government, when the first acquisition by Bill Gates' government was made, only 100 million kina.
I know that we made this decision so many years ago, when it was first mooted by the former Prime Minister Bill Gates. Some 20 years ago. Somehow along the line we make silly mistakes, we make silly decisions that is always very costly. Since making this decision to make move the port relocation to here, some 2 years ago, it has taken us another 2 years to get it concluded. I think that is why governments continue to miss opportunities. When there are business opportunities on the table, we must make decisions in a timely manner, because time costs money. What would have cost us probably 100 million kina at that time, it is now costing us well over 700 million kina today. And that is because we continuously make silly decisions.
The Motukea port will now play a crucial role as the gateway to the Asia-Pacific market, and also in harbouring and repairing large cargo ships, also consisting of 2 terminals for domestic and international.
PNG Ports and IBBC will work closely to appoint a new world-class terminal operator to operate. The international terminal that will be built soon here. That process has already commenced.
The PNG Ports relocation will also further development of the central business district. PNG Ports will be handing over the port grounds to the National Capital District Commission to allow downtown to further expand.
In fact, an event that celebrates the opening up of our country to the Southeast Asia and Asia Pacific region, and so on to the world. Papua New Guinea is open for business to our natural gateways, our ports. Prime Minister, Papua New Guinea is also a country on the move. In the case of our capital city, Port Moresby, it is literally on the move. We are taking the port out of Port Moresby, and by relocating the operations to Motukea, we are opening up our city, capital city, to allow for further developments, so we can move forward.
The Motukea port was once owned by the Curtin brothers to facilitate for the LNG project. The relocation of PNG Port comes after the expansion of Lae Port. The government is hoping to create efficient ports that can cope with imports and export. PNG Ports will not only be one of the ports relocating, but also Papua New Guinea's naval base. They currently are in negotiation stages on where best to situate its port.
The development of Papua New Guinea's growing economy has seen the rise in demand of the construction industry. This sees businesses eyeing the age of technology by increasing their capacity. Monya Limited is now pushing its limits to improve its position and adding value to PNG's economy. Jack Lepave with this report.
Monya Limited has been operating in Papua New Guinea for over 55 years. Monya is the single largest producer, supplier and distributor of construction materials and building products in PNG. From time to time, Monya has seen variety in its demand as Papua New Guinea sees changes with construction of projects and the growth in PNG's economy. The significant growth and complexity in the construction industry has kept Monia on its toes to adapt and suit the needs of its customers.
Monia produces construction materials and building products for supply to the local construction industry. The construction industry contributes significantly to GDP in the country and also creates a lot of jobs in the local community. Monia has a reputation for supplying quality products, and that's our niche market, supplying to those builders and constructors who are looking for a quality product. Our biggest issue is having to compete in a market where quality is not always valued, but Monia has created a niche market there.
Monia Limited Managing Director Brian Condon says this investment is to strengthen its capacity and increase production. Mr. Condon says Monia invests significantly in technical research and development to design products that meet customers' expectations, specifications and relevant standards and codes.
I think that Monia is a growth company, and as such we're able to continuously improve our position and our support and development of the local economy.
Recently, the company invested with a purchase of a 45 million kina gravel and vertical cast pipeline plant. The plant is Monia's latest equipment to its current strength in producing building materials.
Monia has invested in this plant and equipment to increase our capacity and capability to produce materials. Monia tries to stay at the forefront of technology so that we can provide our clients and customers with the best products and services available.
Recently, Prime Minister Peter O'Neill visited the Nembri and Rauna quarries to commission the plant.
Please, you can start the process today. Thank you.
Maintaining the steady growth in PNG's economy, the Prime Minister said the construction industry is building Papua New Guinea.
It is certainly of course, investment that is needed particularly in the construction industry in Papua New Guinea. We know that this is the right time to invest in our country. The economy is doing well, and of course, we can see the growth of businesses over the past 10 or 14 years as the economy continued to grow.
O'Neill said despite challenges in world economy activities, businesses in PNG have the potential to prove their investments.
With the decline in the global commodity prices, that growth has been readjusted to about 15%. In anybody's language, that is a remarkable growth. And I know that with that growth, business has confidence in making more investments.
Monia's new plant is said to have an impact on its production rate. And with the crushing and screening plant having a minimum lifespan of 20 years, Monia's existence is aimed at meeting the demand of the construction industry in the country.
The crushing and screening plant is a mezzo crushing and screening plant that increased our capacity significantly. So we can now produce through that one plant 350 tonnes of material an hour and produce 9 materials at the same time. The pipe plant allows us to increase our capacity from 22 pipes a day up to 300 pipes a day if we were required to. Obviously that capacity is in excess of what we need at the moment.
PNG's economy is growing at around 15%, a rate not giving much hope to investors, but Monia remains calm in reaping benefits and maintain the confidence in growing its business in PNG.
Growth has slowed down over the last couple of years, but we don't see it as significant slowing down. We still have found the market to be quite buoyant. We have absolute confidence that PNG will continue to develop, and as such will need the support of the construction industry. We see the construction industry going from strength to strength over the next few years, and the current downturn is a small interruption to that continued growth. Motukea is setting itself up to maintain its position as the market leader moving forward and being able to support our customers with increased capacity.
And with the boom in housing projects, roadworks and many others in the country, Motukea has set their eyes on producing the best construction materials to meet the growing demand.
And that has allowed us to grow a business that contributes significantly towards the economy, the local economy. And so we're looking to the continued growth of Port Moresby and the National Capital District, and we see the investment as a long-term investment.
And as PNG's construction industry grows, Motukea wants to prove its capability not only to survive in PNG's economy, but building the nation through human skills, quality products and adding value to PNG's thriving economy.
And now on to some news buys that have been making the headlines in the country. The Reserve Bank of Vanuatu has rejected Bank South Pacific's bid to purchase Westpac Vanuatu. A Westpac Group media release attributed the decision to continue operations in Vanuatu to timing, especially after the recent Cyclone Pam devastation. The Samoan Prime Minister has invited the Papua New Guinea carrier Airlines PNG to land at Faliolo Airport, connecting Samoa to Los Angeles and Hong Kong. Prime Minister Tulaiapa not only invited the director of Airlines PNG, Se Costas Constantinu, to start the practice, but pressed him to promise to do so within the next 12 months. Tulaiapa says that landing PNG planes in Samoa will boost local tourism and will in turn benefit PNG's tourism sector. The Sovereign Wealth Fund must be managed properly with the highest principle of governance. Now, this is according to the director of the Institute of National Affairs, Paul Barker. Mr. Barker said the Sovereign Wealth Fund is critically important and it must not be manipulated by the government or any other agencies.
Mr. Barker gave an insight into the newly passed Sovereign Wealth Fund for the country. He said the SWF has two components that needs to be managed properly if PNG wants a sustainable future. He says the Sovereign Wealth Fund depends highly on the stabilization and saving funds that are important when there is a drop in commodity prices in world markets.
Sovereign Wealth Fund is as good as how it's managed. It's got to be, the public needs to know that it's its fund, that it's got to be managed for the benefit of the people of Papua New Guinea in the short term and in the longer term.
Barker says the government must now try to avoid banking on non-renewable resources and cut down on borrowing, which in the long run can affect other income-generating sectors like agriculture. But he stressed on the importance of the stabilization component of the Sovereign Wealth Fund, which he says depends on the revenue generated from the mining and agriculture sector. Again, these revenues must be well managed.
So the stabilization is very much about when commodity prices and flows are strong, that you're putting funds into that, and when the prices are low and the government needs to maintain its revenue, then you're withdrawing from the stabilization fund and putting it into the government's revenue.
Last year, the National Research Institute released a report on the Sovereign Wealth Fund. The paper was an analysis of Papua New Guinea's process towards formulating its SWF. The research revealed that PNG is highly dependent on non-renewable resources, which leaves the future of PNG uncertain. It also revealed that revenue from resources has failed to impact Papua New Guinea with tangible development and delivery of services in the last 20 years.
And so we are put in a very risky position along with other countries who are mainly dependent on the mineral sector for its contribution to the GDP. Because if we spend it now, we don't know whether it will be, the benefits will be there if we spend it. If we misspend it, then the future generation is also going to lose out.
For now, Mr. Barker says a higher legislation must be set to monitor the flow of revenue into the Sovereign Wealth Fund.
So it's important that it is hands-off, it's managed, the stabilization is managed according to its formula, and that the savings fund is not just sort of used on an ad hoc way.
The Sovereign Wealth Fund was passed in Parliament last week, with Prime Minister Peter O'Neill maintaining that it's for the future generation of Papua New Guinea.
The Sovereign Wealth Fund are managed in accordance with the highest principles of governance and accountability.
The Institute of National Affairs Director also said that the Oktedi Mining Limited temporary shutdown comes at an awkward financial time for PNG.
With the temporary closure of Oktedi Mine, Barker says it is more than a little coincidence that this is happening after the government has acquired controlling shares in the company.
I mean, these are obviously public assets now. So the government really needs to be extremely accountable to the people of Western Province and to the people of the country about what its plans are. But it's a little difficult to see the details at this stage.
He says while the reasons for the closure are beyond the government's control, the closure of one of the country's biggest revenue earner comes at a difficult time for the country.
You also have shorter-term intermissions in some of the other mining operations around the country as well, and it's also at a time when when basically LNG revenue is fundamentally going to the creditors who have provided the loans. So there's only dribs and drabs of revenue coming through in dividends, etc., through, and obviously for a much lower level because of the lower gas prices, LNG prices, through to Japan, Taiwan, China, etc. So
earlier last week, while speaking on the closure of Oktedi Mine, the Prime Minister said the government is aware of the issues at hand.
That's not our doing. It's not because we are mismanaging the economy. It's because of global circumstances. That's why we need to, on a weekly basis, manage our country's budget, and that's what we are doing.
However, Barker says some of these issues were made clear to the government last year.
Treasury staff and people outside the Treasury, commentators, were telling the government, you need to have a change of your budget for 2015 now. But of course they deferred it and sort of denied that it was going to have any effect until now, when government saying, oh well, look, you know, we couldn't foresee these falls in the commodity prices. Well,
and he says while the country grapples with these economic issues, it must not forget its prime responsibility.
So a lot of factors are influencing what's happening at the moment, but it's really critically important that the PNG government, central bank, and other players really handle this wisely and responsibly, and certainly don't forget that the real priority, the purpose of the government, is to provide those basic services: law and order, basic infrastructure, health, education services, etc., for its own population.
And that's all we have for you tonight. For more business news, so if you would simply like to view this episode again, visit MTV online at www.mtv.com.pg, or to join the conversation, like our page on Facebook for daily business news, or follow us on Twitter at BusinessPNG using the hashtag BusinessPNG. Until next week, enjoy the rest of your viewing on MTV. I'm Leon Gerari, and this was Business PNG.